This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I think I just won my taxes.
Yeah?
I just switched to H&R Block in about 1 minute. All I had to do was drag and drop last year's return into H&R Block, and bam, my information is automatically there.
So I don't have to go digging around for all my old papers to switch?
Nope.
Sounds like we just leveled up our tax game.
Switching to H&R Block is easy. Just drag and drop your last return. It's better with Block.
You're listening to...
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
Mike, we're back. The Celtics begin their homestand of marquee matchups, going 1-1 with giving up a huge lead Friday night to the Cleveland Cavaliers and solidifying that 1 seed for them. I think it was solidified anyways. And then they bounce back with the win against Denver. Mike, we are brought to you by the what?
The Fan First Network, bitch.
The Fan First Sports Network, bitch.
Okay.
We got to make sure we add that in there going forward. The Fan First Sports Network, bitch.
All right.
Bitch isn't a part of it, but we've added it.
I think we get like a penny per episode or something.
Something like that. Yeah. Maybe even less. So, Mike, why don't you can start us wherever you want. You want to start as Friday night? You want to start as last night? There's a lot to take away. Obviously, the Celtics have a couple guys out. They had big leads in both, surrendered big leads in both, although not fully in Denver. And, played against two of the marquee teams in this league and ended up 1-1.
I mean, Friday night against Cleveland, 4th game this year. It's been the story of 2 halves, really, in all 4 games, where the Celtics would get out to big leads against Cleveland, and Cleveland would cut them down or take the lead at the end of the game like they did in the 2nd and 4th game of these matchups to win. I would say in Friday night's victory for Cleveland, it was key rebounding in key spots. Celtics really dominated the boards in the first half. Cleveland, especially on the offensive end, Evan Mobley in the 4th quarter in particular, were really hurting the Celtics on the glass. Celtics were making stops, but they just couldn't get the rebound to end the possession, and that was a big difference in this game. And I think the 4th foul on Jaylen Brown played a big role.
The officiating was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, officiating was really bad. The Celtics play in the second half was also really bad. They got outscored 57-41. Credit to Cleveland. I know that Porzingis and Holiday weren't out there. That was a good win. To go down 25-3 in Boston on a Friday night, cut that lead down to 10 by the second quarter, go down again 17 in the third quarter, and really just dominate from there. And their best players stepped up. Garland, Mitchell certainly was, that's a problem we got to discuss. The Celtics, they got to slow him down. They have to figure out a way. This is a big problem on the defensive end. And obviously with no KP in there, I thought Mobley was excellent in the 4th quarter. But if KP's in that game, I do think the Celtics win, and Cleveland's got a problem too. They really can't stop the Celtics' two wings, but to give Cleveland credit, and I think it worked for them in the second half, they didn't double Tatum and Brown. They stuck to their game plan. Tatum only had 2 assists in the second half. Other guys didn't get involved, and I think that was a big part of what Cleveland wanted. They didn't want the other guys to get off, and they didn't. Cornette probably played his worst game of the season. Pritchard was basically a no-show. Hauser didn't give you much. So yeah, Jim, it was. I mean, it's a game. Although Holiday and Porzingis weren't in there, I was disappointed the Celtics didn't pull out. You really can't blow those leads, but they did. So it is what it is.
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot from this game. It was an entertaining game as hell. There's very few marquee matchups that kind of live up to the hype. I thought this one did. Celtics came out blazing. What was it, 25-3 or something to start?
It was 25-3.
25-3. Well, you know that lead's not going to stay against a team like Cleveland. You get out to leads on big against good teams in the NBA. That's going to get cut down. It's just a matter of whether you win or lose the game. And the Celtics obviously lost the game, so they lost the lead and then weren't able to get it back or let Cleveland over the hill, which they did. I guess I got a few takeaways. One, you kind of hit on it. Credit Cleveland. That's a hell of a win. They're a really good team. When Evan Mobley's cooking, they're really tough to beat. Donovan Mitchell's been a problem for the Celtics going way back to Utah. He's always been a problem for the Celtics. If we get to a playoff series, he's going to be a problem for the Celtics. I think you really, got to pick your poison with them. Either play him single coverage. If you double him, you're leaving. They got a lot of good shooters, so that becomes a problem too. So it'd be interesting to see how they approach that when they do meet. I expect them to meet, and I expect it to be a really stressful series where I will pick the Celtics. I'll tell you that right now. But I think it will be a very stressful series because this is a very talented team. And if the Celtics have any health problems, it's going to be even tougher, as you saw last on Friday night. And you mentioned Brown and Tatum. They were both fantastic. I mean, Tatum's, what was he, 46, 16, and 9 or something? But You hit on something that was important. He had only 2 assists after the first half, and I don't think that was his fault. Your other guys did not step up. Luke Cornette was a minus 36. Peyton Pritchard, plus minus, was a minus 26. Sam Hauser, not only was he being cooked defensively, and they were targeting him all night long, he didn't make enough plays offensively, did not make enough shots. In Al Horford, I think he finished with 6 points. Just not enough from the other guys. Brown and Tatum carried you to that lead, and they got up again at 17 in the third quarter. Then Brown picked up his 4th. So now for a while, not only do you not have Holiday, you don't have Porzingis. Now Brown's on the bench, and he can't give you the type of minutes that they want to get out of him in a game like this. And that's when your other guys have to step up, and they just didn't. And they didn't in so many different ways, whether it was not making shots or not Hauser being picked on defensively or not being able to get a defensive rebound or Cornette not being able to have any type of contest on Mobley at all for his threes in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just over and over and over again where there was mistake after mistake or they didn't finish plays. And you saw in the fourth quarter when they needed a rebound, they were out there kind of overmatched and small against Mobley. It was Horford at the 5. They didn't want to go double bigs anymore because Cornette was so ineffective. And it just, when the game got tight, you could see how undermanned the Celtics were in those situations, especially when it comes to containing Mobley. He becomes just a different player when you don't have either your double bigs or Porzingis out there. And that was really, outside of the start of the game where they started Hauser, there was a lot of Cornette Horford minutes out there that I thought limited Mobley until the fourth quarter. When Mobley, he had 11 of his 17 in that fourth. So I think a lot of disappointment in your role players. Obviously, you need more from them, especially in that second half. You can't expect your two stars to give you 50 each to win that game. But I think as much my number one takeaway though, Mike, is you credit Cleveland. They just made a lot of plays. They're a really good team. Hunter's a good addition. They have a good surrounding cast, and it will be a tough series.
Yeah, Hunter's a great addition for them. He scored 32 last night.
He did, yeah.
That they sat Mitchell, and Hunter scored 28 points in the second half and overtime last night against Portland, and he hit some big threes against the Celtics in that second half. I think probably
and had a great late contest on Tatum on that last three that Tatum took, which was an air ball.
Yeah, and I think part of the challenge for the Celtics in that second half is, those other guys didn't play well because they couldn't get themselves open. And they played really physical with Brown and Tatum at the rim. Were really taking away their jump shot and forcing them to go at the rim to their bigs. And to Tatum and Brown's credit, they hit some tough layups, but they didn't leave guys, Jim. They didn't overhelp in that second half. And in the first half, they did overhelp on those drives, especially from Tatum. And the second half was nice adjustment by Cleveland. They didn't leave any of the shooters. They didn't leave Cornette in the dunker spot. They played Brown and Tatum at the rim, forcing them to finish. And unfortunately for the Celtics, the refs refused to make a fucking call, which I didn't understand why Tatum didn't shoot a free throw basically in the second half, going to the rim as much as he did. But, you got to play the way the refs are calling the game. And I thought that was a good game plan. I've said it on the pod before. I don't think doubling and tripling Tatum is how you beat the Celtics. I think you have to play him straight up, and he's going to have games like this. Now, can you do that when Porzingis and Holiday are on the floor? I don't think so. I don't think so either.
Or if Al's making shots, I mean, that pushes the big out even more and opens up driving lanes. And that was part of the reason driving lanes were open, is because they tried to take away his shot. Help came late in the fourth quarter and made those driving lanes more difficult. But if Al, he makes 3 or 4 threes in that game, that stresses the defense even more.
But the turning point for me was that phantom fourth foul on Jaylen Brown, which would have been 2 more points.
Yeah,
it was his third offensive rebound of the third quarter. That was going to be his third offensive rebound and putback. He was just bullying those guys. That was a really bad call. That was a couple of those. Cleveland flops a lot. I watched them against Portland again last night. They flop a lot, and they get a really kind whistle as well. And then you look at the fourth quarter, just real quick, the last possession there, the one that really turned the game. Brown goes to the rim, he gets fouled, no call. Down the other end, Mitchell goes to the rim, he gets love tapped, and he gets an and one.
It's the M1, yeah.
Story of the game.
Well, that's what was so frustrating, because they appeared to be letting physical play go on. And you see it with the Celtics drives where they weren't getting to the line. And then you would have these kind of touch offensive fouls. And in that stretch that you were talking about, they called, I think, after Brown picked up his fourth, it was the next 2 possessions on offense. The Celtics, I believe, got called for offensive fouls. All of them kind of soft or questionable based on how they were calling the game. And in each time down, after that happened, Cleveland, I think, hit 2 threes and a 2. So that's 8 points. The swing in momentum at that point is huge. Credit to Cleveland. They came down and made the shots. So you don't take that away from them. But those are huge calls, and especially the Browns' fourth, because that puts him on the bench until the end of the fourth quarter. It changes how they want to adjust their minutes, and how they want to manage the game, obviously. And it was just too bad, at which point, Derek White is also, that's when his, kind of time to go to bench so he can start the fourth with Brown. But now you're looking at a situation where you're out there with Tatum and basically 4 reserves. In the quarter, and that's when the run was made.
one of those reserves. I mean, Cornette was bad, obviously, but his first game back, Pritchard was bad, and he gave you nothing on the defensive end.
He was bad.
Mean, he was bad, and offensively, maybe he needed some help. Maybe Joe needed to run some plays for him to get him going because they needed somebody else. There were no drives to the paint from him. He's kind of just standing there, not really touching the ball much. I think one thing that Missoula could have adjusted in that game is maybe running some plays to him so they had another threat out there because they needed another guy desperately. They just didn't have it. I took from this game, the Celtics to me is still the better team when healthy. I still would pick them in the series. But my opinion of Cleveland has changed where I think they're a serious contender. I put them in the 4 teams and I give them a shot to win the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Especially with the Hunter pickup and just watching him play now.
And you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. You never know if there's going to be an injury. You never know how, you have a couple bad games at the wrong time or the other team has a real weird variance with great shooting. And all of a sudden that puts you in a hole where you don't even necessarily play bad. And they're just so capable of taking advantage of those situations because of their talent that they have a great shot. Absolutely. I still, like I said, I still pick the Celtics. I agree with you, but they're legit. They're much more legit than I thought they were at the beginning of the season.
Well, the amount of 3-point shooting that they have, it comes in waves. You look at this, it's really, it's a lot. Even watching them last night with guys not playing, Ty Jerome, Hunter, Merrill, Max Strauss, not even talking about Mitchell and Garland and Mobley. I mean, those are 7 guys that all hit it at like 40% clip. They're going to be a tough out. And my thing with the Celtics, my concern would be like, they have to have KP available for that series. That's the one series in the Eastern Conference that they could be in big trouble if they don't have him because it's going to put pressure on Brown and Tatum to really just dominate every single game.
Well, I think even bigger than that, it's the Mobley factor. We saw Mobley, and that to me, that was the most interesting part of going into this game. That why it was so disappointing not having KP, because I thought KP just dominated that matchup down in Cleveland to the point where Mobley was benched. He was benched in the fourth quarter at the end of the game. So I wanted to see if that was a one-off, which I believe it is, or if there is a real KP impact on Mobley. And unfortunately, because KP was sick, we didn't get a chance to see that. Just something to note, too, in this matchup. This was the first time Cleveland held the Celtics to under 40 three-pointers. They did a great job in that second half, limiting them to just 11 three-pointers. You mentioned the reasons why, staying out on shooters, defending Tatum and Brown 1-1. On the flip side of that, Cleveland has not shot over 43s against the Celtics yet in this series. So the Celtics have actually done a really good job in each and every game of limiting their three-point attempts. Now, both teams have 39. Still, keeping these two teams under 40, I think, is a pretty good achievement. This was the best game Cleveland shot from 3 against the Celtics. But it was the only game this series, I believe, that they were over 40%. Since they play the Celtics, and again, maybe that you look at guys being out, but both teams, at least in this game for Cleveland, but both teams seem to have figured out, limit the 3-point opportunities. You give yourself a better chance.
So, Jim, when you go into a series against Cleveland, what's your game plan against Donovan Mitchell? Obviously, you're going to play him straight up, but yeah, I think switching on him, I don't understand why they continue to allow the switch to happen in the second half when Mitchell could pick his matchups. Force Mitchell to pass it to a big against Sam Hauser on the post, rather than allow Mitchell to create space and hit threes or get to the line against Hauser. There was one possession in particular where it was Tatum out on him, and they switched it. They just allowed Cleveland to go into that pick and roll and they switched out Hauser on him. And, Joe after the game said, Hauser's actually a really good on-ball defender, and we trust him, and that's why we allow this. A series against Cleveland, I don't think you can switch that. I think you have to fight through that and keep, your best defenders on this guy. And I don't know if that's Tatum exactly, but they have to figure this out. They can't allow this guy to average 35 points a game in a 7-game series.
So I think if he gets cooking in a game, you'd see him double late. I think there would be adjustments to that. But you got to remember, if the Celtics are healthy, Hauser's not out there in the fourth quarter. So they would be switching with guys like White, Tatum, Brown, and Holiday. And they feel pretty good about the way they are playing with Porzingis out there, that his drop coverage is good enough where it's just going to cause all sorts of problems for Cleveland. I think the bigger issue, honestly, I think the key to Cleveland beating the Celtics is Mobley playing like an all-star. I think you can survive Donovan Mitchell scoring 30-plus points against you and winning the series. I don't think you can survive beating Cleveland if Donovan Mitchell is going and Evan Mobley is playing like an all-star. I think that becomes a real problem for you. Of course, the problem with doubling Mitchell is they got other really good players. And obviously, you don't want Garland catching the ball on the run when Mitchell's on a double, and he creates all sorts of issues. And you'd hate to see two guys get cooking against you. So I think they will continue to stay in their system. I think they'll be okay with Hauser picking him up in the 11 minutes he plays over a course of the game. I think, to Joe's defense, he has been a much better defender than he gives people credit for. I think what the league has figured out against him now is you don't catch it and you ISO him, you catch it and you go fast. Yeah. And he seems to have a little bit more trouble with that. I think he's really fine if guys decide to dribble between their legs and try to target him. He does move his feet well enough and defends pretty well, where he's had more success than not. I think the league has figured out to go fast against him, and that's been the bigger issue. And if he's not making threes like he really wasn't, and he wasn't being an effective offensive player, it makes it that much worse, and obviously that happened on Friday night. But that's what I would think. I'd stick with what I got. I think you're the better team, and my number one thing would be to limit Mobley.
Yeah, and obviously the hope is that KP will be able to continue to do that
on both ends too, right? You gotta make he didn't really have to work on the defensive end. I didn't feel like he just got to be dominant in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and maybe, and I was thinking this during the game, especially during that run with all the offensive rebounds. Not even for the win, to try to get the win. I just wanted to see how Cato would have played against Cleveland, because, if I just go into this with going into the playoffs, I think Cade is going to play a lot of minutes now for the rest of the season, just to get him ready, because you just don't know with Cade, with Porzingis. I just don't trust him to be available.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen, maybe Keita went in during that fourth quarter, and that was your double bigs, and Cornette went to the bench, and it was Keita and Al Horford, to see if he could have gave you something. I know Joe didn't do it, because Keita was really, really bad against Toronto and Detroit. Yeah. Or even Torrey Craig maybe in that fourth quarter, but it didn't happen. Those adjustments will come in May and June, so we won't see these guys for a while. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the game, Jim, or if you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, I would have loved to have seen Keita. I would have loved for him to show, and I put that more in Keita than Joe. Keita should have shown something the two previous games to show, and fortunately for him, he did yesterday. He played well against Denver, but that's a really tough matchup for him to get out there against Cleveland, and he should have shown out a little bit more in the previous two games. I mean, he was so slow getting out of his screens. I thought he was slow reacting to switches defensively. He just, and not all of it's his fault. When he was going well, it's because he was getting a lot of reps. Porzingis has come back, and those have been limited, and Quinette's been playing so well. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think the double bigs against Cleveland causes them problems. You risk Donovan Mitchell kind of still going off, but at the same time, he was going off. And if you still had gotten defensive rebounds, you probably would have won that game in the fourth quarter the other night. So, yeah, all of that. And I would have liked to see Kata too, but I also understand why Joe didn't do it.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pop, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Denver, Mike. The Denver Nuggets. That was a win. Give us your takeaways.
Yes. The Celtics came out on fire once again from three to start the game, which has been a trend here for a little while. Now we saw it against Detroit in the first half. Just really hot from three. You saw it against the Knicks. You've seen it against Cleveland. You saw it yesterday against Denver. One of the things I took away is Jaylen Brown's starting to shoot the ball well now, pretty consistently for several games in a row, which is a good sign.
Yeah,
as we
really
move
good
forward
sign.
into the season.
Good point. Great point.
Yeah, hitting his threes, hitting his free throws. He was hitting his mid-range all season. So, but I think it was a nice, tough win. I would have loved to see KP and Holiday and Aaron Gordon out there. I do think Denver's a much different team when Aaron Gordon's on the floor. But that was a tough effort by Denver. I got to give them credit. I thought Murray's perimeter defense in the second half and his physical style of defense gave the Celtics some problems. And then the physical play from Murray on the offensive end, too, hitting some really tough shots. He really came out in this game. I thought he was Denver's best player yesterday. But it was a gutty win. It was a gutty win from the Celtics. They won a game where Jason Tatum, in my opinion, with the illness that's going around with the Celtics, I don't think Tatum just had an off game. I thought in that second half he had absolutely no legs and looked like he was breathing heavy. I think he's sick, Jim. That's just something I have no inside source, obviously. But he didn't look right yesterday on either end. He looked exhausted. So you really were down Tatum, in my opinion, in that second half. It was a gutty win. A lot of guys stepped up. I'll let you give us the audience more details. But one thing I will say is to end halves, I don't love the way the Celtics are playing with the lead to end first halves. I think they're letting teams back in it. And they are letting teams walk down big leads pretty quickly. But they were able to hold on and pull this one out. And they were the team that finished in crunch time. And a lot of credit to Derek White for that. I thought Derek White and Al Horford played excellent games yesterday.
Yeah, they did. They needed Al Horford. The overall supporting cast really played well, especially in that first half, whether it was Pritchard or Hauser. Kata was really good yesterday. Yeah, Cornette was much better than he was the other night, even though his numbers don't really show it. Can
I say one thing about Cornette, though?
Sure.
These last two games, he's not finishing at the rim. He's got to get back. He's been off, so he might be getting his game back, but he's got to finish at the rim, man. A lot of easy looks that he's not finishing, but yeah, he did play well. I thought he played really well defensively yesterday.
Well, that was the thing. I thought, I didn't think Jokic was overly. He was good. His line was good. I think it was like 21, 14, and 9 or something like that. But on the whole, the Celtics did a really good job of containing him. They didn't double him a lot, so it was a lot of single coverage, whether it was with Horford or Cornette or Cada, and they decided to kind of, not let him get really going with his assisting and his assist game, which is really important against Denver. So I think credit to your bigs there. In your surrounding cast, because in Derek White, fourth quarter, he's just awesome. It feels like he never misses a shot in the fourth quarter, makes the wrong play. The guy's just nails.
Huge offensive rebound in the putback, too, by him.
Yeah, just nails. The guy's nails. But they did it really. They were again out without Porzingis. They were again without Holiday and Tatum. Yeah, Mike, he was gassed. So I don't know if it's sick or it's just, it was the fourth game in 6 nights for him. Even Brown had a night off during that stretch. He's been playing about 40 minutes in almost every single one of those games. A lot of them high intensity type games. And this was a 1:00 start on top of it. So he's not even getting his normal rest that he would get during the day to be ready for a night game. And
that could be it too.
He just looked gassed. You can't really blame him. The guy plays hard. He plays every day, and he just wasn't himself, and you could see it. You could see it early on. I think I was texting you early on that a lot of his shots were front of the rim. The turnovers were kind of like he was second guessing himself when he was going to make a play, and he had more turnovers than we've seen in a long time. And his teammates picked him up. And I know they walked down the lead. I just kind of note that teams do walk down leads, especially good teams. Maybe it happens a little too fast against the Celtics. They're also undermanned, so they're ending quarters with Jokic and Murray on the floor. And the Celtics are typically ending quarters with one of their stars on the floor and a bunch of bench players. Jokic and Murray always seem to end quarters for Denver, and they're good shot makers, and they made shots. But they held on and won, and they made plays down the stretch when Denver was feeling pretty good about themselves. I thought it was a good test in that fourth quarter. Denver was feeling pretty good offensively. They went through a stretch there where it looked like they got a good look every time. You had Braun hit that corner three after going 1 for 8, and basically it was a Celtics game plan. They weren't covering him out there all game long, him or Westbrook, and he made it. So at that point, he was 2 for 9, and you're kind of like, oh shit, if he's making shots now from out there, and he played a good game overall. I think he had 20 plus points, but he wasn't making shots from out there. We might be in trouble. And Derek White and the defense picked it up, and they made plays, and that was the difference. So good on them. And also good on Jaylen Brown in that second unit to start the fourth quarter. Jokic was out of the game. They extended the lead back to 9 or 10 points when it was down to 4 or 3. Hauser made a big 3 in transition. That's been a problem for the Celtics all season. That unit coming in, and it was, really tested because those are minutes you have to win against Denver, and they did. And I don't care that it was just +3 or +4. That's a nice win for that group. And they don't win the game without them doing that. Huge moment in the game, in my opinion, and they passed with flying colors.
Well, Denver certainly helped by playing DeAndre Jordan. I don't understand. You don't have another guy. Your GM should be fired. What is going on in Denver? That's crazy to me. Obviously, when Aaron Gordon's healthy, I assume they probably just put him at the 5 with that unit. But that was a good win last night. Jim, I was watching the game with our dad, and obviously he's not a huge basketball fan, and he kept asking questions about Jokic, and it was really interesting just watching the game with him. He's like, he doesn't even run right. He's like, look how he runs. And I was like, Dad, I'm telling you, he's the best player in the world. And Jokic would make these crazy passes and crazy plays, and he was like, this guy's unbelievable. He's like, but I wouldn't. He's like, when I first started watching, I was like, this guy must stink. And I was like, yeah, it was really funny just seeing Dad watch the game.
Yeah,
He
no,
just watched Jokic for the first time.
it is, especially yesterday. There was even like a limp that he had at the beginning of the game. Yeah, no, he's a great player. Best player in the league by a mile, really. Um, but I think Denver has problems out west. I don't think they're the team that's going to get through. I really don't. And you know what you're saying about the Lakers, maybe sounds like maybe you're a little bit more right than I
Stop
was
paying
on
attention to
them.
them. Stop paying attention to them. Yep.
I still think the Thunder are the team to beat out there. But Mike, around the league, Embiid, unless we'll see any closing Celtic thoughts at the end. He's out for the year. He's out for the year. And, you know, you're seeing a lot of all this, you know, what tough injury luck he has had. I feel like Sixers and their fans, as Embiid has entered every season out of shape for his whole decade of being here, have been like the crumps at dinner time with their son eating all the fried whatever he was eating that night at dinner, the fried food and everything else, going Hercules, 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 because that guy's been a fat fuck since he's entered this league. Maybe if he wasn't so fat and flopping all over the floor, he'd still he'd still be healthy, or at least healthier.
I mean, what do you expect? I mean, if you're a fan in Philly, you watch your GM intentionally tank for like 5 seasons to get a guy like Embiid. He's all they have, so of course they're gonna fight and defend him. But it is a bad place that Philadelphia is in, and it's just gonna get worse. I don't know how they fix it.
My point is, though, I feel like they enabled him. They enabled the style of play. They enabled like his healthy habits. There was never like unhealthy habits. Like there should have been a season where he came in just chiseled and looking like, oh my God, he's going to destroy this league. And it just never happened.
Well, I do think there was one season. It was him and Ben Simmons, but that game 7 they lost to Kawhi Leonard. That team had a shot to win it all. And Embiid was in great shape that season. And that was really the one season he was. But, of course, Kawhi Leonard hit one of the most iconic buzzer beaters in the history of the game. But outside of that, I agree, Jim. It's been I think, a huge disappointing career for this guy. And given his habits and given his personality, I just don't see it. I don't see him ever coming back, playing at that level ever again. And yeah, he's out for the season.
I think Dallas was wrong to trade him and all that stuff, but I do think the critiques
Dallas
of
was wrong
to trade Luka, obviously.
That's
where I'm going. But all the critiques that were made of Luka are correct. Like, and that's the thing that the Lakers need to be concerned about. Fortunately, he doesn't have the foot and knee history that Embiid does, but he's another guy that just flops all around and is consistently way overweight and out of shape. And he suffers on the defensive end from it. And this could be the end result for him or something similar if he doesn't focus on his body and the right things going forward. He could age pretty poorly once he gets past 26, 27. So, like, hopefully this is kind of a lesson. Luka. Hopefully this is a lesson to him down there, but you can't continue to play in the NBA as fat and think you're going to be successful. Like, and maybe fat's not being fair, but you can just tell Embiid is always out of shape. Always out of shape. And Luka too.
They're on the Glenn Big Baby Davis plan.
Yeah.
Well, he's in prison, so hopefully.
No, hopefully they're not on that plan. Yeah.
Hopefully they're not on that plan. Around the league, speaking of the Lakers and speaking of Luka, They won again yesterday against the Clippers. Luka's putting up some good numbers. LeBron LeBron, what he's doing? How old is LeBron now? 56? How old is he?
125. Yeah.
Yeah, 125 years old. He's honestly in the discussion, Jim, for first team NBA. He won't get there, but if you pay attention to how he's playing and the numbers he's putting up, it's pretty insane. And he's a big part of the reason why the Lakers are. I think if we were looking at the overall standings, they're probably like 2 games back of the Celtics right now, or 3. I do. I think they're coming out of the West. I think Luka and LeBron are going to carry that roster to the NBA Finals. I see it happening. They're playing at a really high level right now. And we get to see him on Saturday, which I'm really excited about.
They're playing well. I don't think they get out of the West. I think there's still flaws on that roster.
I don't think it matters. I think those two are carrying that team.
Yeah, we'll see. You have an aging guy. We'll see how he holds up. And you have another guy that, I don't think Luka, he's been good, but he hasn't been great there yet. And we'll see. We'll see if he can get himself in shape and get through a playoff.
One of the things we were talking about.
He left a game yesterday and he came back, but he left a game yesterday, and you do worry about those soft tissue injuries with him because, again, he's not in good shape.
The other part of that, too, is, we spoke about, does Austin Reeves fit in? He seems to fit in fine with these two. It seems like they just do iso ball with the 3 of them and ask them to make plays.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way. I know that JJ Redick wants to play a different way. He feels like he wants to coach like Missoula. He just doesn't have the weapons to do it. So I feel like he's kind of just handed it over to these 3. And, that's the offense the Lakers play. There's also kind of plays into the Celtics' hands if they ever met.
There's no evidence that Luka can play that way. I mean, he's had a lot of different rosters that he's played with, and he's never been a guy where the ball moves. No, and he's a great passer, but he is an isolation player. His fans don't like his fans don't like to hear it, but he's a much better player than James Harden. But there's a lot of James Harden in that game, which really does bog down the offense, and you have to hope that the rest of the guys are just ready and able, because they're not going to have a ton of touches over the course of a 24-second shot clock with Luka. It's been a little better with LA, I guess, but that's just how he's been historically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other thing around the league, I don't know if you saw Jalen Springer. He got a contract.
Good for him.
A real one. So he signed for a 3-year deal with the Utah Jazz. So he landed on his feet, the former Celtic.
And the Celtics waived Watson, the kid they drafted in the second round, and they signed another 2-way player whose name is escaping me right now.
Oh, well, hey, there you go. Watson, I thought he looked horrible in the preseason, so I think we kind of saw that coming. And lastly, around the league, Jim, Jimmy Butler, as much as I hate it, Golden State's a really interesting team out west now. Seem to be playing well. The Western Conference is just insane how good it is. So.
It's really good. It's really good. Mike, any other closing Celtics thoughts before we get to the advice?
No, let's get this advice calm down.
All right. So the details of this I'm not completely familiar with. I saw this on Twitter last night, and this is a high school basketball game. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you are seeing this. There is a point guard dribbling the ball over half court, makes a pass. Immediately after he makes a pass, the kid in his defensive stance in front of him gives him a straight right hand right to the crotch, a nut job, ball tap, whatever you want to call it, but it's a full-fledged straight right hand punch aimed right at his private area. Mike, if this ever happened to you in a game, what do you do after falling over in pain, obviously, and lying there for a while?
Oh, is that bad?
Well, you would assume, right? If you get punched in the balls, I think you're going down. I think you're going down. if your 5-year-old whacks you there, you typically bend over in a lot of pain. So it was a very much a Draymond Green move. Although I have not seen Draymond give a straight right hand like this before. This is something I haven't seen before. So your thoughts? Good move by the kid punching him in the balls. How does this all end?
How's it all end?
Yeah.
Or how would I handle it?
How would you handle it?
Well, interestingly enough, against Plymouth North in my senior year of high school home game, an individual, a turd from that school, tried to do that to me. Much more subtle though than what's on this video.
Like on a box out or something?
Kind of like he was, cutting without the ball, coming to a stop, and then he tried to slap me in the dick. And he like brushed my shorts, and from everybody looking, it looked like he actually hit me because my teammates were really upset in the huddle. The refs missed it. The way I reacted is I just played dirty back, and I think that's how you got to get the kid back. I don't care what your coach says. Oh, don't touch him. Like, that is not okay. That is as bad as it gets. That is dirty, and you deserve whatever pain comes your way. So, I was just grabbing the kid by like his shoulders, and I was bigger than him, trying to throw him on the ground and hurt him. I think that's how I think you have to protect yourself, and they have to feel the pain that they're trying to give to you. And I hope if it wasn't this kid, I don't know if this kid had to go to the locker room. I hope one of his teammates fucking did something about it.
Well, I hope too. The refs. I don't know what happened afterwards. I mean, there's no. I'm watching it. I don't think there's any way the refs could have missed this. So the kid had to have been tossed. He had to have been tossed.
Hey Jim, I have an employee who's locked out. I have to let him in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that, so that's what Mike would have done. He would have found revenge. He would not have done it through peace. Obviously, Pastor Mike, I'm a little bit surprised. Usually they say to turn the other cheek, but in this case, Mike's gonna end up in hell too, I guess. And with that, Celtics a little bit rest this week. They don't play, I don't believe, until Wednesday night against Portland, and then they'll get Friday night against Philadelphia. So some practice time, some rest, which they
play back to back Wednesday, Portland, Philly Thursday, and then Saturday at home against the LA Lakers.
So a couple days rest before the Portland game. If it's a back-to-back, I wonder if they end up resting guys. I assume they will. Mike, any closing thoughts?
Just excited to see him play that David Aviar in Portland. He had a triple-double last night, 30, 10, and 10. Been playing well. He really has.
Yeah, he has. I got a David Aviar jersey that,
Another Washington mistake, letting that guy go. But all right, Jim, I got to get off. Thanks for listening to the pod, everybody.
See you soon.